When you see a massive bridge, a skyscraper, or a power plant going up, it's easy to just focus on the concrete and steel. But what you're not seeing is the complex operating system running in the background, a rulebook that governs every single decision, every payment, and every argument. For most big international construction projects, that operating system is the FIDIC Red Book. And today, we're going to walk through a project's entire journey, using its pages as our guide. So, how does this rulebook actually play out in the real world? Well, we're going to follow the entire life of a project. We'll start at the very beginning with the kickoff, then we'll follow the money to see how everyone gets paid. We'll look at what happens when things inevitably go wrong, how a project is formally handed over, and finally, what you do when you just can't agree. It's the whole shebang from start to finish. All right, first things first, getting the project off the ground. And this is way more than just a photo op with some shovels. These are the crucial, legally binding steps that officially start the clock and set the rules of the game for everything that follows. Think of this whole sequence as the official starting gun for the project. First, the engineer, who's basically the employer's representative, gives a formal notice to commence. This isn't a casual, hey, let's get started email. It's a major contractual trigger. Then, the contractor gets on site to check that everything's good to go. And finally, and this part is absolutely critical, within 28 days, the contractor has to submit their detailed plan. This document, the program, becomes the official yardstick that all future progress, all delays, and all claims are measured against. Okay, with the project officially up and running, it's time to talk about the part everyone really cares about, following the money. This is the heartbeat of any project. How work gets measured, how bills get paid, and how the cash keeps flowing to keep the whole operation moving forward. So to get a massive project like this off the ground, a contractor needs a ton of cash up front for equipment, materials, you name it. That's why most contracts kick off with an advance payment. It's usually about 10% of the total contract price, and it's basically an interest-free loan to get things moving. Now, it's not just free money, of course. It's backed up by a bank guarantee, and the contractor pays it back bit by bit from their future monthly payments. So how does the employer know what to pay for every month? Well, it all comes down to measurement. And the Red Book kind of has two flavors. You can think of interim measurements, like a running tab at a bar. They happen every month to keep the cash flow going, but they can be adjusted later. Then, as parts of the project get finished and signed off, they get locked into the final measurement. That's like the final itemized bill at the end of the night. It becomes the definitive, unchangeable record of what got built. This right here shows you that the contractor's monthly bill is way more complicated than a simple invoice. It's a whole piece of accounting. You start with the value of the work they did, sure, but then you add money for things like materials that just got delivered or for approved claims. Then you subtract stuff, like a little bit of retention money. That's a percentage the employer holds back as a security deposit. And you also subtract that month's repayment of the advance payment. It's a full financial snapshot of the project, every single month. Of course, let's be real, no project in history has ever gone exactly according to plan. From freak weather to global pandemics, the unexpected is, well, it's pretty much expected. And the Red Book has a very detailed playbook for what to do when things go seriously off the rails. When things go really wrong, the contract doesn't just say bad stuff happened. It has this very precise, very high-bar legal definition for a true disaster, an exceptional event. And to qualify, an event has to tick all the boxes. It has to be beyond anyone's control, something you couldn't have seen coming, something you couldn't overcome, and not your fault. This is what triggers a special set of rules that protect everybody from situations that are genuinely out of their hands. And the second an exceptional event occurs, a very specific clock starts ticking. No messing around. The party that's affected has to give a formal notice within 14 days. Now, if that event stops work for 84 days straight, we're talking nearly 3 months, then either side has the right to just terminate the contract. Same deal if a bunch of smaller interruptions from that same event add up to more than 140 days. These deadlines force a decision. They stop a project from getting stuck in limbo forever. Not every delay is a full-blown disaster, though. A contractor can get what's called an extension of time, or EOT. Basically, it pushes back their deadline without any financial penalty. But, they need a good reason. This could be anything from the employer changing the design to truly exceptional and unforeseeable weather, or even delays caused by the government. The contract has these built-in relief valves to adjust the timeline when delays are legit. All right, after months, maybe even years of work, we finally reach the climax of the project. This isn't just about finishing the last bit of touch-up paint. It's a formal, contractual process where the contractor officially hands over the keys to the employer. Now, this is where things get really interesting, because the very definition of complete has changed. In the 2017 version of the Red Book, it's not enough for the physical work to just be done. The contractor now has to get formal sign-off on all the final drawings, submit all the user manuals, and finish all the required training before they can officially hand the project over. The focus has totally shifted from just building a thing to delivering a fully documented, ready-to-use asset. And this quote right here, it just perfectly nails a huge real-world risk. The contractor can have their side of things 100% perfect, but the official handover can get stuck in a bureaucratic nightmare. The warning here is that delays can be engineered. Basically, other people can use slow paperwork to unfairly stop the handover from happening, which can cost the contractor a fortune. To protect against those kinds of engineered delays, the contract has a safety net. If the contractor applies for that handover certificate and the engineer just doesn't respond, they don't approve it, they don't reject it, just silence, after 28 days, the certificate is considered automatically approved. It's deemed to be issued. It's a good backstop to prevent stalling, but it's not a silver bullet. A difficult employer can still find ways to make it complicated. So, what happens when all the talking breaks down and the parties are just stuck? They're at a total impasse over a claim or a decision. Well, the Red Book doesn't just let them go to court. It has a formal, step-by-step process for sorting things out, and it starts with a dedicated project referee. Meet the DAB, the Dispute Avoidance/Adjudication Board, and I want you to focus on that first word, the absolute game changer, avoidance. So this isn't some court that only shows up after there's a huge problem. The DAB is a panel of experts appointed at the very beginning of the job. They stay in the loop, they visit the site, and they can help solve problems before they blow up into massive fights. It's a proactive approach designed to keep the project moving. But if that informal help doesn't work, there's a very clear ladder to climb. First, the engineer tries to make a fair determination. If anyone disagrees, they issue a notice of dissatisfaction. That's the trigger to formally take the issue to the DAB. What's crucial here is that it's a structured and time-bound process. The DAB has to make a decision within 84 days, which prevents arguments from just dragging on forever and poisoning the whole project. So, as we've seen, the FIDIC Red Book is so much more than just a dry legal document. It's a complete project management framework. It's a dynamic roadmap that gives you a structured, logical pathway for every single stage of a project's life. From that first green light, through all the chaos of construction, all the way to a successful handover. And that really just leaves us with one final thought. In today's world of these massive mega projects, with contracts as complex as this, what's the real challenge? Is it mastering the engineering and the construction, or is it mastering the paperwork and the process? Something to think about.